This is by far the spiciest video you are going to see on my channel. Fandom friends, today I have a very different video planned. Now, this is a topic that I have been wanting to talk about for a while. I know you saw the title and you saw the thumbnail, so before we jump into things, I want to kind of let you know that this is not a hate video. I'm not going to be, super upset, but there are some things that have bothered me surrounding the anime convention, Anime Expo in California that is held every year involving anime fans. So before I start talking about Anime Expo, I kind of wanted to give a backstory, kind of where I've come from in the whole convention and cosplay world. So if you don't know, I have actually been going to just traditional conventions from a very young age, of course, starting in my home state when I was probably about 10 or 11, when I was really into Star Wars. My dad brought me to the biggest convention in my home state, and we would go every year, and I still go every year to that convention. And as I got older, I started to love things more, like Lord of the Rings and Avatar: The Last Airbender, and so me and my family started to travel to other states for their conventions so that I could cosplay and meet voice actors and kind of be involved with all of the really fun stuff that's involved with conventions. And so all of my life, I had been kind of going to all of these, what anime fans call big cons, whereas to me, they were just normal cons. That's what these conventions were to me because that's what I had been going to all my life. I've been to the conventions in Phoenix, Arizona, San Jose, California, San Diego Comic-Con, the huge one, the biggest convention in America, Salt Lake City in Utah, Denver in Colorado, and probably many more that I'm missing. Of course, I've also been to Anime Expo, but we're getting to that later. So by the time I got into anime, I was of course introduced to anime conventions, which I started going to, and I viewed them as being the small cons. All my life, I had been exposed to these, of course, really big and grand state conventions where hundreds to thousands of people go. There's crowds of people. There's way more to do than at a traditional anime convention, which to me at the time of first going to these anime conventions was very different because I viewed them as being very small. I remember thinking like, why is this convention like one big room of vendors? There's like nothing to do here. And that of course is because I came from the mindset of being exposed to these very large cons all my life. And so I'm gonna take my life experience through conventions, going from maybe what some people call big conventions to small conventions from my own experience, and putting that into the perspective of changing that around. So if you are that kind of person, you are an anime fan who has only gone to anime conventions all your life, and all you've really been exposed to are these, what I call small conventions. And then you're exposed to larger conventions such as Anime Expo, which is the largest anime convention in the world, and other state cons, which are these big cons that anime fans like to call them. Of course, that is going to be maybe panic-inducing because there are a lot more people there. There are a lot more things to do. And so with all of that being said, I have seen over the past 2 to 3 years of me being an anime fan that anime fans tend to have a very poor opinion of Anime Expo. And I think the majority and the root of that is because they are so used to only going to anime conventions, which they deem normal as these kind of smaller conventions that are held in hotels, smaller convention areas within a city. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But what I do find wrong is when people wrongly start complaining about cons like Anime Expo, and it's typically anime fans. Like I said, over the past 2 to 3 years of me going to Anime Expo, I have seen nothing but just kind of hate over the crowds and safety and the lines that people see at Anime Expo. Some people complaining about it when they're not even there experiencing it, which does really bother me a lot because Anime Expo is kind of no different than all of the normal larger conventions that I've been going to all my life. That's literally what a convention is hundreds to thousands of people within the same building, within the same rooms within a building. That's what a convention is. And so when I see anime fans talking about going to Anime Expo or going to Anime Expo and experiencing what they experience, or not going to Anime Expo and then ranting about how horrible it is, it really bothers me. someone who is an anime fan that has only been going to strictly anime conventions all your life, and then you jump to something like Anime Expo, I can totally understand how that can be overwhelming for people. I myself am an introvert, and so I do understand that because I have been in those same situations before as well for conventions and concerts and other very large group gatherings like that. However, if you are knowingly going to a convention, you probably want to do some research about how many people are going to be there, how many buildings is this going to be, how many rooms, what are the panels going to be like. Of course, at Anime Expo, they hold up to thousands of people in one room. You kind of want to research that if you're a first-time person going to such a large con, because of course you want to make yourself more comfortable. All I'm saying is to do your research. If you know you are going into a crowded place, a crowded convention, prepare yourself for that. You can plan for what cosplays you're going to wear on certain days if you want it to be more simple or complex depending on crowds that day. The kind of middle days of a convention typically tend to be the most popular and the most crowded. If you know that you're going to panic in a crowd, maybe try going a different route. Go the longer way instead of maybe a shortcut to avoid people. Another big tip I have is time management. Of course, time manage where you want to be at certain times of the day. If you know that there's a panel that you want to go to first thing in the morning, do that and then maybe take a break or go into the vendor hall for a couple hours. If it's a busier time of the day, maybe stay away from the vendor hall because you're not as comfortable with crowds or whatever the situation may be. My biggest tip is to take breaks. Now, this is something that I do because I am an introvert and I know that about myself. I know that I am going to get overwhelmed by crowds, and I have in the past, and I have never once complained and kind of thrown blame at a con for that because I knew what I was walking into. I did it to myself. That has nothing to do with the convention. There's a large piece of responsibility that comes into going to conventions, especially if you are a content creator or a cosplayer. You are going to draw attention. If you know you're going to draw attention and you're an introvert or you don't really like crowds, such as myself, take breaks throughout the day. I've had to do this so many times where there's lines of people asking for pictures of me in my cosplay, or just people that want to talk to me or people that are interviewing me. I have had to just step aside and say, hey, not right now, I'm going to take a break real quick, and I go take my break and I come back and I'm perfectly fine. No need for complaining, no need for bashing the con for crowds, because of course people are going to be there because they're just there to have fun. So basically what I'm saying is please do not start causing drama or scaring other people or tarnishing someone else's experience at a convention like Anime Expo over something that you could have done to prevent your stress in an uncomfortable situation. I've seen a lot of people complaining about the main lobby of Anime Expo being super crowded, lines for panels being crowded. Of course those places are going to be crowded because people are trying to enter the convention through that main lobby. People are trying to go to a panel which seats thousands of people. Of course, there are going to be thousands of people waiting in line. Overcrowding is totally possible, and I feel like that just happens at all conventions. That's just a universal thing, not just Anime Expo. Overcrowding can happen at concerts or stadiums or other events that have a lot of people in them. While I was at Anime Expo for the past 2 years, of course, while I'm there, I'm seeing on social media these pictures that people are taking of that large main lobby room and just saying, dang, it's like this all day, it's super crowded, it's super unsafe. I literally have images of proof of that not being true, where I am in there just minding my own business in cosplay, people are taking pictures, it kind of turns into a big fun hangout spot, and it's not a danger at all. So it really just depends on the time of day you see it as well. And like I said earlier, if you know that it's crowded or if you see that it's crowded and you just don't want to deal with that, then don't. That's your decision to walk a different direction. Of course, conventions are not going to be 100% perfect. There are always going to be things that people are going to complain about, or safety issues or hazards. Of course, I understand that. It's run by humans after all. We are not 100% perfect beings. But you also have to take into account that conventions and things like Anime Expo are run by people, either workers or volunteers, that are trying to allow you to have a good time at the convention that you paid for and are putting your time into, just like they are putting their time into trying to get you into the convention as fast as they can, trying to get you into the panel as fast as they can. They're trying to do everything they can. And of course, not everyone is going to be super kind about it, but I know at the end of the day, everyone is just trying their best. So yes, in conclusion, I will acknowledge that safety measures, more of them could be taken into place. Not everything is going to be perfect, but each year Anime Expo that I have been to has made it one step better. This year will be my 3rd year at Anime Expo, which I am super excited for, and I know for a fact that they will probably be trying to make things better, because that's typically what conventions do. They want people to have a good time, they want people to come back, and I want to give them that chance. If you get one thing from this video, it's that I hope you just take a second to not complain, not belittle a convention, especially if you are not there in the first place. If you're irritated about crowds or overcrowding or safety, take a deep breath, take a step back, kind of analyze the situation. Know that crowding happens at literally every single convention. And if you have not experienced that at another big convention, that's okay. Maybe you will in the future, and that'll help you understand kind of what this whole conversation is that I'm talking about Anime Expo and the complaining I see people do about it. If you have any sort of feedback that you would like Anime Expo to be aware of, Anime Expo actually has an amazing tool for you. So instead of publicly complaining about something and completely scaring other cosplayers or people that want to enjoy the convention, I suggest you go to Anime Expo and you attend their panel that is usually held on the second to last day or the last day, which is basically this panel where you can literally give feedback to people who work at Anime Expo to make it better in the future. Personally, I've never been to that panel, so I can't really talk about it, but I know that in the past it has been held in the very large panel room, and people go there and they give feedback about what could be done better in the future, which personally, I think having a panel where you give feedback to the people running the convention only proves how much of a good job the people of Anime Expo are trying to work for this convention. They want their customers to have an amazing time at the convention, whether it's cosplay or going to vendors, all of the above really. They want you to have a good time. If there's anything from this discussion that you would like me to talk about more, or my experiences at other conventions that are very similar to Anime Expo, please let me know. I would love to talk more about this, and I hope that this was informative for people, whether they have been complaining or not. I'm not upset with people in any way. It's just something that has bothered me, and I just wanted to speak about it in kind of this positive way to honestly just give feedback to other anime fans who love and are passionate about the same things that I am. So that is going to wrap up this video for today. Leave a comment if you were going to Anime Expo. I would love to see you there and to say hi. I'm super excited, and Anime Expo, if you couldn't tell, is one of my favorite conventions that I've ever been to, so it's definitely a staple in my life of going to every year now. So I will see you at Anime Expo this year. I will see you in the next video. Bye!